A chargeback notification in your processor inbox triggers more panic than almost anything else in early-stage coaching businesses, and the panic is misplaced. It is a paper process with a deadline. It is not a lawsuit, not a complaint to the credentialing body, not a public review. It is a form submission with a clock attached. Coaches who treat it as a paper process win most of the disputes worth fighting. Coaches who treat it as a personal accusation either spend 10 days writing the wrong evidence or miss the window entirely. This unit is the paper process. The deadline is 7 to 14 days depending on the card network, and the outcome is determined almost entirely by what arrives inside that window. Documentation in hand. You assemble a packet, you submit, you usually win. Documentation absent. The chargeback wins by default, not on merit, not because the client was right, but because nothing was submitted. The system is not adversarial in the way a courtroom is adversarial. It is administrative. The bank analyst reads what you upload, applies the reason code criteria and rules. Showing up with the right paper is the entire game. Knowing the mechanics of how the chargeback travels through the system removes most of the emotional charge from the notification. Client calls their card issuer and disputes the charge. The bank provisionally reverses the funds. Your account is debited before any ruling exists. Your processor receives the notice and forwards it to you with the amount, the reason code, and the response deadline. You submit a response through the dispute interface. The bank reviews and rules. Win and the funds come back, but the dispute fee stays charged. $15 at Stripe, comparable elsewhere. Lose and the reversal stands. Reason codes determine which evidence elements matter most, and 3 codes cover most coaching disputes. Services not rendered or services not as described, the dominant code in this industry, where the client claims either nothing happened or what happened was not what was promised. Unauthorized transaction, actual fraud, someone other than the cardholder made the charge, completely different evidence profile. Duplicate charge, administrative error, usually clean to resolve with a transaction record showing the payments are different sessions. Read the reason code before you build the packet because the code tells you which evidence the bank is actually looking for. 4 evidence exhibits make the response packet for a services not as described dispute, and missing any one of them weakens the case materially. Signed coaching agreement with the refund clause included. This is the foundation. No exhibit, no defense. Proof of service delivery, session confirmation emails, accepted calendar invites, materials transmitted, summary sent, communication log, emails or messages with the client during the engagement, particularly anything expressing satisfaction or requesting future sessions. Refund request history, either the record of a refund request that was processed or the absence of any refund request, which itself is evidence that the dispute skipped the good faith first contact step. The response timeline inside the 7 to 14-day window has its own structure, and the structure prevents both rushing and stalling. First 48 hours after notification, evidence gathering only. Pull the agreement, pull the email threads, pull the calendar history, pull the session deliverables. Next 24 hours, organize, write the 2-paragraph response that walks the bank analyst through the evidence, and upload. Submit with at least 48 hours of buffer on the deadline. Late submissions are treated as non-responses regardless of the strength of the evidence inside them. The buffer is not optional discipline. It is the buffer against the upload failure scenario the day before deadline. Win rate reality is the most important point in this unit, and the one most coaches resist hearing. The chargeback system rewards documentation quality, not engagement quality. An excellent engagement with no signed agreement, no session confirmations, no archived email log will lose to a fraudulent claim that the dispute response packet cannot rebut. A merely competent engagement with the full 4-exhibit packet usually wins, even against a client who feels real grievance. This is not justice. It is administrative review with documentary standards. The variable you control is documentation, and that is also the variable that determines the outcome. 3 situations call for not fighting the dispute at all, and recognizing them keeps your time deployed where it actually returns. Dispute amount under $150 or $200 where your prep time exceeds the recoverable amount. Client had a legitimate grievance you failed to resolve before they escalated. Winning the dispute carries reputational cost that exceeds the funds. Evidence is genuinely absent, meaning there is no signed agreement, no session records, no communication log to assemble. In this case, there is no packet to build, and pretending otherwise wastes the window. Take the loss, install the documentation discipline, do not repeat the configuration. Priya's Composite shows the system working exactly as designed when the documentation discipline is in place. $2,400 chargeback on a 6-month engagement, filed 9 months after the engagement closed, reason coded as services not as described. What Priya had in her files: the signed engagement letter from month 0, 18 session confirmation emails sent at the start of each session, and 1 email from month 3 where the client wrote, "Looking forward to Thursday." She uploaded all 3 with a 2-paragraph cover note describing the engagement scope. The bank ruled in her favor inside the response window. $2,400 returned. $15 dispute fee stayed. Every dispute that wins for the client is a documentation gap on your end, and the prevention discipline is 5 minutes per engagement. Agreement signed before money is collected, not after, not concurrently, before. Refund policy clause included in the body of the agreement, not in a separate document the client never opened. Session confirmation sent by email at the start of each session with date, time, and 1-line agenda topic. All written client communication archived in a single thread or folder for 24 months minimum. None of this is heroic effort. All of it is the routine that converts a dispute notification from a crisis into a folder you open and submit from. The folder is the work product of this unit, and you build it now, not when a notification arrives. Create a folder on your computer labeled Chargeback Response Template. Put 4 items inside it: a copy of your coaching agreement template, your refund policy clause as a standalone paragraph, a blank session confirmation email template, and a 1-line procedural note about retaining all client email threads for at least 24 months. That folder exists for one reason. The first time a dispute notification lands, your first action is to open the folder, not to scramble for 10 days hunting for documents that may or may not exist.